It's official, David Moyes is the new West Ham United manager, back for a second reign just 18 months after leaving the football club. We've reached out to a few regular Hammers Chat contributors and said, what do you think of the appointment? Enough from me, over to them.
David Moyes, West Ham United manager, again. Deflated, to be honest. Unimaginative, uninspiring. Everything you'd expect, really, from a David Sullivan appointment. The guy is like your dad playing Football Manager, as far as I'm concerned. He hasn't really got a clue. His record for hiring has-been managers is for all to see. You can even go back to his time at Birmingham, the likes of Trevor Francis, Steve Bruce, Alex McLeish. He just really hasn't got a clue. This guy is somebody that's not a football person, but he's trying to act it. His ego is such that he thinks he can do better than anybody else. He can't. A lot of other Premier League clubs, if you have a look, they have sort of silent owners. They have chief executives work underneath him, making the big decisions as far as hiring and firing of managers. People who know the game, who know not just the domestic game, but they know the European leagues. David Sullivan is just an absolute clown as far as I'm concerned. And it's just another has-been manager appointed by David Sullivan. Perhaps being a little bit harsh on the bloke, but I just can't get inspired by it. I don't think he did a particularly fantastic job last time. He kept us up. I think that squad was good enough to stay up regardless. His win percentage was poor. His record in the transfer market was poor. A lot of alarm bells ringing there. And of course, nobody else has come in for him, which probably does say a lot, doesn't it? I'm going to be honest now. If the choice was between keeping Pellegrini or getting David Moyes, I'd have probably kept Pellegrini. And I've been Pellegrini out probably since Newcastle. That's probably when I first realised that a change definitely needed to be made, but not under these circumstances. I certainly wouldn't have had David Moyes. Why can't we be the club that goes and gets the next innovative sort of up-and-coming manager? We just don't. Why don't we? It's because of David Sullivan. It's just, you look at Southampton's recruitment, not just player recruitment, which is actually very good. Gonzo pointed it out on one of his videos recently. They've got an excellent setup. But they have as well in terms of managers. They brought in Pochettino, who turned out to be one of the best managers in world football. Despite being sacked by Spurs, still an absolutely terrific manager. They went and identified him and brought him to the club. You'd never see David Sullivan do that. It's always the same, has been, old managers. And I just can't see where we progress if this is always going to be the case. It's just an absolute farce. You hope that he can come in as a positive and maybe make us a little bit more rigid, bit more stable. It's not what we want to see, but it's probably is what we need right now, because we've been so bad defensively. We really have. So that's one thing he needs to come in and sort out. The other thing that does excite me a little bit, I must admit, is his coaching team. Irvine and Stuart Pearce I do rate really highly. It'd be nice to see them back at the club. But I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say something really unpopular now. I'm sure this will be unpopular. If it was a pragmatic, sort of defensive-minded, boring manager we were going back to, I'd have took Big Sam over David Moyes. I really do, because I just think he's a better manager. As simple as that, really. I think his record's better as well. I think everywhere he's been, he's not done a particularly bad job. It's just the style of football, but we're going to get a pretty poor brand of football under David Moyes, I suspect, if his stint last time's anything to go by. So, yeah, it's one of them. Hey ho, it's happened. We move on, we deal with it, we back him. Of course we do. We'll all back him, but at the same time we're obviously going to give our opinions now as the news has broke. Not a lot more to say. Not my choice. Probably not a lot of your choices. But David Sullivan, he just don't know what he's doing, does he?
We know that Pellegrini had run out of ideas. We know that there needed to be a change. But let's face it, West Ham as a club have completely run out of ideas if they are going to re-employ David Moyes. Are you telling me that in the whole of the world there isn't a better manager than David Moyes we could get that would want to come? Is that really it? Is that really what we moved ground for? Is that what we gave up? The Boleyn ground moved all the way to Stratford for the next level to re-employ David Moyes, the guy who was in charge when we had the mass demonstration that burned the game, the guy who likes to play defensive football. Look, Moyes himself isn't the issue here. The issue here is the owners. The owners here who are completely devoid of any ideas, completely devoid of any direction. We are a club devoid of any direction. And it's a shame because there are the basics there of a decent squad. We could do something with those players if we had a manager with imagination. But it isn't just the manager, it's the club as a whole, especially Sullivan, especially Gold, and especially Brady. I've got a feeling their lives are about to become really, really difficult. It's an appallingly unimaginative appointment, and it isn't for me, I'm afraid.
Right, I've just heard the news. David Moyes Part 2. Here we come. Can I get excited? Not really. Not saying that he didn't do a bad job keeping us up, but at the end of the day, he's David Moyes. Nothing better, nothing worse. Just goes to show where the club's ambition's going. It's just the same old shit. Run like a circus, round and round in circles. Here we are, 4 years later, in the bowl, the ground that ain't ours, retractable seating, West Ham London, not West Ham United. It's just the same old shit. I've got nothing against David Moyes, but at the end of the day, he ain't going to push us anywhere further up that table than what he did the other season. It's just bullshit. But if I'm honest with you, I don't think anybody else can do any better. I think the club's just toxic. It's rotten from the core. The fans are loyal, and that's about it, really. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to drink my sorrows. So, yeah, fuck it.
There you have it. Thank you to everybody for sending in your clips. As for me, I think it's the two desperate days, really, isn't it? David Sullivan's desperate for someone to get him out of this situation. He's gone back to the guy who he told 18 months ago he's not good enough. And David Moyes is desperate for a crack at the Premier League. He's been waiting and waiting, and no one's turned up. I think he would have preferred any of the other 19 jobs in the Premier League, actually, than this one. Why would you want to go to the club that told you you're not good enough, essentially? Maybe he's got a point to prove. Maybe he just wants money. I think it's more the latter, but so what? It's his job at the end of the day. That's why I go to work, and it's why you go to work. Good luck to him. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but it's the time for pretty was at the start of the season. Pellegrini didn't manage it. He didn't do well enough. Moyes is here now to get results. We can worry about the pretty football next season. I hope he does well. Good luck to David. Let's get winning games, get a little bit of hope back into the fan base heading into games. That's it, really. Leave your comments below what you think. Myself and Gonzo will be doing a Talk West Ham soon where we look at your opinions, interact with the live chat, get guests on to have their say, and we'll be taking a look at the comments about what you think about the appointment of David Moyes. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and catch you in a bit.